Cabinet Vision. It's a great program when it's great, and it's a damn frustrating one when it is not. My name is Rob, and in this video I'm going to see what I can do to help make you a better cabinet visioner, so that way you can get the most out of the software and make it work for you. I think it's a fantastic program, especially when it comes to nested base CNC operations. So hopefully I can keep you from wanting to throw your computer monitor out the front of your office window, because if you've been using it a while, I know you've at least been tempted. So without further ado, let's get into Cabinet Vision and start breaking it down. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So I've been thinking a lot on how to structure these videos, because I don't want them to be really long, but I want to make sure that I'm covering, everything. So I think a good place to start is just to kind of go over the basic interface of Cabinet Vision, just kind of how it works, like what all the tools are, and then with each video I'm going to get a little deeper into the nuts and bolts of the program. So I think to kick this thing off is we're just going to kind of talk about what we're looking at here, and then we're going to jump into a room and just start looking at some of the tools and how it works. So this is a brand new install, so it does not have any of my pre-set up schedules or anything like that. So this is what you will see if you have a brand new version of Cabinet Vision. We've got a bunch of tabs up here. They are important, and then we've got two down here. New job, open job, pretty self-explanatory. I think so. I think what we'll do is we'll just create a new job. We'll click that button and see what happens. Alright, so this brings up a job properties window. We're on the first tab, job, and the first thing that you're going to be prompted to do is fill out information about the job. So a name, the address, obvious stuff. You can add some comments on it. And then there's the schedule, which I don't even mess with that, so that's one of those things I don't know what to tell you there, because I don't use it. So we're going to come down to room, and this is going to be the name of the first room you create. Can be changed later on, so it's not a big deal. I'm a creature of habit, so I start building the same room every time, so I would name it something like kitchen. And then it's a room. Alright, finishes. Now this is going to be purely graphical for your display, so I don't mess with it. I find that the defaults work good, but if you want to go in and change some colors, you can. Now you have the layout tab. This is going to be the thickness of the walls that you're going to be building, that you're going to attach cabinets to. The default there should be pretty good for you. The height that's the height of the wall of the room you're working on, so that'll change based on the height of your wall, your room wall, and then you've got your soffit height, and this just makes it easier. If you drag an upper cabinet onto the wall, it'll automatically place it at the right soffit height from the ceiling, and it'll save you some work, but can be adjusted when you're in the room, no problem. Alright, cabinet. So this is where you're going to start assigning the construction methods that you have had set up. The problem is we're on a fresh install, so we don't have anything to select because we haven't had anything set up. So if we take a look at what's Cabinet Vision has some placed schedules in here, and but for me right now, I can't really do anything with it because I don't even know what it is that's wanting to do. If you take a look at the drawer box, there's 5-piece, which I'm assuming it's sides, front, back, and bottom. 4-piece drawer, and you got a couple options there. Here we can change our materials. Let's say we're doing a paint grade. got your options for wood there, and then again here we have this drawer box, so exposed interior, and then we have a drawer box here, and we can choose whatever we need to here. Now you notice that there's this modify for this job buttons here, and this is where you can go in and make some changes, but we're not going to focus on that right now. We're just going to keep moving through these tabs. All right, your pull schedule. So this is where you can assign a pull. If you're using a CNC to cut out your doors, you can, and you know what type of pull you're going to use and the spacing, you can use the machine to automatically put your drill holes in for you. I use it half and half. I've been using it more lately, so it definitely is handy, especially if you're doing like slab doors, or I find it the most useful when I'm not having to do a double-sided operation, but that's where you will go if you want to add handle holes. Alright, so your drawer guide schedule, this is where you're going to assign the drawer guides that you're going to be using. And the reason that's important is because when Cabinet Vision calculates the box width of your cabinet, it's taking several things into account to calculate the width that the box needs to be. One of them is the drawer guides, and specifically the clearance that the guides need. So without knowing what guide and what clearance are set, it's not going to really be helpful right now, but this will be an important thing to set up in, once we start building out our schedules. Same thing with the hinge. We've got some plugged in options here. This half-inch overlay, €110. These overlay, and I think on Cabinet Vision these overlay ones have the metal piece on the outside of a face frame, and then all the other ones are hidden, concealed hinges, and then you of course got inset. Sliding door rail schedule, I don't even know what that is, so I won't really comment on that. Okay, so if we move on to doors, we can see that we have some options to edit the doors that we're using. So we've got a couple tabs over here. Bases, drawers, uppers, base end panel, upper end panel, and tall end panel. That's with the EP. So if we take a look at, we'll just undo this all. If we come over here to these three little dots, it's going to open up the door editor or the selector. You might not have, I know this is a fresh install, but I was clicking around a minute ago, and so what you're seeing here is these three recent ones I have clicked on. But if this is a fresh install, that'll be blank. If you've been using it a while, it's going to show up your recent the recent things that you've been selecting between. So we've got some options over here: routed MDF, raised panel, flat panel, drawer front, glass, slab, MDF for you guys out there that machine your doors. But for us, for this, we're just going to click the flat panel and the base flat panel. I'm not really worried about it. This is not, adjusted for me, so I'm not going to really look into this too much. So we're going to say that looks good, and then we're going to go, I'm not even going to mess with flutes or layouts. See, flutes, I really don't even know. I've never used this before, so this is where I'm going to need someone out there in the crowd to tell me what this is, if people even use it. Same with layouts. So this, if this will set some standards, if you will. So like, let's say a kitchen base cabinet height. On average, 34.5 is probably pretty accurate as far as the height of base cabinets throughout the industry. So that's why that's plugged in there. Kitchen cabinets are usually 24 deep. Uppers, 12, pretty standard. Obviously, there's cabinets in between those sizes, and this just kind of gives you a base standard to start out. and then obviously we can edit everything once we're in the room. So, all right, next we have the countertop tab, and this is where we can generate countertops on the rooms that we build. You can go in and we can modify the different parameters, like if you're in the countertop, you know, if it's something you can do. If your shop does countertops, you can go in and edit that. The materials, the same way, profiles and layout, and we can go in and edit that. Same with crown molding. They give you a couple common types of crown, like this crown molding here that they have. This profile looks pretty similar to what we use, so but you can always go in and make changes to the material in the wood, but we're not going to cover that now because we haven't talked about the material schedules or the material yet. So we're down at the end, so we're just going to hit OK, and we're going to jump into a room. So this is going to be your work room. So right off the bat, one thing I do want to cover, and I might be cut off in my screen, but down in the bottom right corner you have a little tab that'll either say inches or millimeters, and then it'll either have a fraction or a decimal, and it is the set your precision option. And the reason that I want to bring this up right off the bat is because when I first started Cabinet Vision, I did not understand how precision and rounding worked inside of Cabinet Vision, and it was very confusing to me. What you set your precision level at is what you are going to see as far as what Cabinet Vision tells you certain numbers are. For example, if I have a very loose rounding, let's say I go to a 1/8 rounding, which is not very accurate, it's not very precise. If I have my precision set at something like that, I could have a measurement of, let's say, 4 3/16. Cabinet Vision is going to say, well, he's got his precision set on 1/8 inch units, so it might round that up to a quarter instead of 3/16. And so when you're looking through your reports, you're going to see a quarter, and you're going to be like, well, that's wrong. So if you up your precision, it will all of a sudden change it to 3/16, and you're going to see the true value that is not rounded. So you want to keep that in mind, especially when you start going in and making changes on the back end. If your precision is not set high, you know, you can get confused at what you're seeing, or high enough to be accurate. So all right, moving on from there. So if we take a look at our main screen, this is our work plane. And on a mouse, if you click and hold the middle wheel, you can kind of drag it around, and you can see that there's this blue cross right in the middle, and that kind of is symbolizing the center of the workspace. First, if we take a look at these tabs right here, these are going to be the way that we switch between different views. The first three, specifically, you're going to have your plan view, which is your top-down view, elevation, which is the front-on view, most of you probably know, and then the 3D, which we don't have anything in there, but that's where you will see 3D. And then you have your reports tab, and this is when we do have cabinets in the room. We can generate reports, and we can see how many cabinets there are, and we can start sorting them by parts and materials and different things. And we've got some tabs over here. Drawings, I'll probably do a separate video on drawings, a short one, but this is where you're going to generate layouts for your client, so you can hand it out to them, or if there's people on your job site, things like that. And then you have this S2M center, which we're not going to talk about it in this video because this is kind of the gateway between taking everything that you've done in Cabinet Vision and then sending it out to your CNC for operation. And so that's a kind of a complex subject in itself, so we're not going to talk about that but in this video. But just know this is the portal to nesting parts and then sending them out to the machines. So if we go back to plan view, and we take a look at the top here, we've got a render mode. I always set it to fill, and it'll make sense when we start dragging stuff in. We got window mode. So right now we're in the normal view. We can go to split views. So if you're a person who likes to work where you can see your multiple planes, like you can have one in 3D, one in elevation, and one in plan, and so you can kind of see what you're doing, multiple screens, which is pretty nice. Go back to normal. So right here, this is our standard shop architectural. And I believe this is kind of like how things are displayed. I'm normally in standard or shop architectural, and then down here we have room 1. It says room 1 because we haven't named it, but let's say if we went to room, we're going to name this room the kitchen, and you can see that changes to kitchen. So this will be how we switch between rooms. Alright, so over here we've got 2 tabs under properties. You've got one for job, one for room. If I click job, it's going to bring up the window just like when we clicked a new job, which is essentially what it is. And so this allows you to go back and make changes. And if you make changes in the job setting, it will distribute them out throughout the whole job. Oops, dropped something. Next thing you got room. Room is basically the same thing as job, except for it will restrict any of the changes that you made just to that room. An example being if you had a room that is like a stain grade material, so it's going to have different materials than the rest of the job, so you want to change the materials for this room. This is how you would do that. Alright, next you have modifications, which these are pretty self-explanatory. You can kind of go in and read these, and you got copy room. You can copy a room if you need to, make adjustments without ruining a room that you have. You can center it on the workspace, reverse it, export, import. And then you've got under tools, we've got measuring tool. We can put snap marks in, which is marks that we can snap things to, and then you've got a measuring tape. Pretty self-explanatory there. And then you've got your help button. Big thing here is team viewer. If you're talking with a tech, they're going to always ask you for your team viewer ID. So that's there. So now that we've talked about that, we're going to move over here to the left side of the panel. The first thing that you see, a lot of these are grayed out. We've got a CAD function that'll let us click, and then we've got walls. So what we need to start is a wall. We can't do anything without a wall. And if we go to let's do our split view, we can see that this is the top-down view. We've got our wall, and now we can start building things on this wall. Alright, the next one down, this is going to be where the majority of your objects are. This is going to be where you pull cabinets from. If I click on this, this is what Cabinet Vision has pre-built in. I've got 3 tabs: appliances, which is going to be what it says, all your appliances. We've got custom cabinets, and they've given us some pre-builts here, and then we have furnishings, which is going to be where you can add your doors in openings and different things like that. So if we go back to catalog, we'll go into custom cabinets, and we'll just kind of focus on this base cabinet since it's first. You can see we've got this STD base, standard base. We've got a 45 base corner, 45 base corner clip, so 90 degree base corner, 90 degree with a clip, base filler, a 90 base filler, so I'm guessing that's tall, a desk spreader, drawer stack, and then an empty base object. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the standard base first. So let's say we want a standard base. So we're going to drag this in. Okay. Alright, so in our 3D mode, so see how it's that wireframe? So this is where I go to the fill mode. And that's how you can change the... Alright, so if you notice, we don't see anything here. No, we did. It just popped in. It was just being stubborn. It just needed to load in. Okay, that's all that was. Alright, so we've got our top-down view. We've got our 3D and our elevation. Alright, let's say we want to add a... How wide is that? That's a 30-inch wide. We're going to add an upper cabinet above it, and then we're going to get into some of the editing, how you start editing these. So... to get to the upper, so we're in the base cabinet, so we're going to go back to custom cabinets and we're going to go to wall cabinets, because these are cabinets that are going to be mounted on the wall. So again, we have some pre-built starting points is what I like to call them, because you can take them and edit them, and so it gives you a good starting point. So we're going to take our upper, we're going to drag it right above it. And if we see that this 12 inches, that goes back to our, when we created our new room, our soffit height. So we can see that soffit height is working correctly. And if we click this cabinet, we have, I like to call it an inspector panel, because that's just what I've always that's just what I know. The panel that displays all the properties for an object, I've always called it the inspector panel. So if we click this upper, we can see over here on the top of the panel we have the name, we have the clearance. Now this clearance is off either side of the wall. So if I put like a 1 here, we can see that it's moving it over 1 inch from the wall. And so this number tells you on the right side that we've got 49 inches from here. You can see 49 to the wall. And so that's how you can move cabinets over. Next we have end position. Okay, so what the end position is, I'm going to copy this cabinet and I'm going to put it right beside it. I'm going to click on this base cabinet. Whoops. Let me get this jumping around, so hopefully I'm not making you guys dizzy. Alright, so if I click this cabinet, you can see that on my clearance, on the left side it's 0, on the right side it's 4 inches. So the right side it's 4 inches to butting up to this cabinet. But on the end position, it's 0 on the left and 50. And so this end position is ignoring this cabinet, and it's saying, we don't care that there's a cabinet there. This is the actual dimension to the end of the wall. So it's telling you what the cabinet is to the end of the wall, despite what's beside it. So that can be pretty handy. Center position, pretty self-explanatory. You can see that if I click this cabinet here, from the center to the left I'm 49 inches, and then from the center to the right I'm 31. So that's just from the wall to the center from each side. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Dimensions, this is where you're going to be able to change the dimensions of your cabinet. So right now it's 30. Let's say we want to make it a 36. I hit enter and it's going to ask me, which way do you want to expand the cabinet? Do you want to expand it to the left? Do you want to expand it to the right? Or do you want to distribute it both directions equally? So if I just do right, it's going to bump it to the right. Next, the height. Say I wanted it 50 inches tall for some reason, and then the depth. And then this is a locking feature where if I click lock with, it won't let me accidentally change it. And then I have my position, offset, and elevation. Okay, now where that comes in handy is, so if we do angle, if we do like a 45 degree angle, we can see it's trying to rotate the cabinet at a 45 degree. We don't want to do that. So we have outset. If we take a look at here, see if I outset, let's say we outset it 2 inches. For some reason there's plumbing or piping or something. We can do that using the outset. And then elevation, say another 2 inches. What that's going to do is that's going to raise the cabinet up off the ground, whatever unit you specify. So those are the basic, that's the basic inspector panel to edit, to do quick edits. Let me put this back to 34.5. All right, so now we can go in one layer in. I like to think of it in terms of layers, kind of how some of the editing programs that I've used in the past. So we're kind of like on the surface, and we want to take it one layer in. And let's say we want to edit the cabinet specifically. So we're going to double click this cabinet, and it's going to bring us into the cabinet level editor. And so this is where we can make changes to the actual cabinet itself. All right, so the first thing we have, let's say we got this plan view over here. What this allows us to select different faces of the cabinet. So if you can see, as I click this, it rotates it around. If we come up here, we've got some similar tabs like here. It's just instead of clicking it here, we can go to face, we can go to plan, we can go to end. But when we use these, we have an additional editor here that we can use. And then you got 3D. You can explode the cabinet if you want to see the parts. And then you can make it transparent if you want to see some parts there. And then we've got a reports tab, which tells us all the information on the individual parts. So that's pretty handy if you're trying to make adjustments. Alright, so if we go to section view and we go to the front, we can click on the individual components. You got your left style, top rail, middle rail, bottom rail, doors, drawers, and it'll highlight. And so as you click on something, you're going to get options. It's another inspector panel to let you make changes. So let's say we click this left style. It's up against a wall, but we want to bump it out a little because of the trim. We can double that and say 3 inches. And you can see that this side is fatter now than that side. We've got some adjustments here. We can add width to it. And what this is going to do, so if I zero this out, if I go, this is kind of an area we haven't covered yet, but if I add like a width adjustment, let's say 2 inches, you can see that it's extending. Now it's extending it past where when I changed it up here, it's extending it on the inside. Think of it as like when I extend it on the inside, it makes the drawer and door box smaller. If you add it to the width adjustment over here under adjustments, it's going to add it out past that. Height, we can do something like if we put 3.5 or let's say 4, maybe this is 4-inch toe kick, it extends that all the way down. I'm going to zero that for a minute. It extends that frame all the way down. Just like that. And then if we take the elevation, we can bring it back. We can bring it back up, and it will push it up. Like for some reason, I don't know what you would need for, but I'm sure there's a reason out there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have it here. But that's where you're gonna push that part out. So let's see if I zero that. It looks like it's shifting that whole part 2 inches up, whatever I have put in there. So Alright, so then if we click the drawer, we can see we have some information on the dimensions. We've got the opening width, height. We have the option to lock. We've got the type. And this is pretty obvious. We've got, do we want it to be a door, a pair of doors, slider doors, drawer, which in this case it's a drawer. We can make it a false front, so it has a front but no hardware components or drawer box. Open, make it a panel, or make it a blank panel. Alright, same with the doors. We can make it one door, and you can see that it's hinged on the left side. We can change that right here, or you can just click on either side and you can change the hinging of it that way. We can go back to pair doors here. You've got your gap in between, so let's say 0.125, let's say a 1/8 gap in between. We can close that off. Say we want a mullion. Well, I don't know why that didn't do anything. Inset adjustments. So you can make changes here if you're doing like an inset cabinet. So that's where you're going to make. So right now we have a 1/2 inch overlay here. And so your inset adjustments is going to be if you want to make your doors where they're inset, you can do some adjustments there. So we'll back that out to 0. Your overlays. So your overlays is going to be on this pretty standard in the United States is 1/2 inch overlay, and so that's what these are set at. What that means is that the door and the drawer fronts are overlaying the face frame a 1/2 inch, and so that's how it gets the size. You can alter these numbers, like say if you wanted a 0.75 on the left side overlay, so it's going to start to increase the overlay, or you could make it smaller. So those are your overlay settings. Alright, so now we've been on the section face the whole time, and that allows us to edit the outside of the cabinet. We also have an interior section, and this is going to be where you can add things like shelves. You've got some functions over here. You got horizontal split, vertical split, multi-split, horizontal, multi-split, vertical. For example, I could come in here and put a horizontal split. And what that is going to do is that's going to add a shelf. And it's going to tell the computer, hey, we need to drill shelf holes as well. We can click this shelf, and again we've got some options that we can make some adjustments. We can say, is this an adjustable shelf? Is it a glass shelf? Is it a fixed shelf with no drill holes? Is it a rollout shelf? Rollout tray? A drawer stretcher, or top or bottom? Under the position we have some options here. And then down here under the adjustments we have some options to add, to make some changes. So the left and right clearance is going to try to hold it 1/8 off the walls, and then this depth is going to be how you decide if you want to make this bigger, deeper, or smaller. Now this size is going to be driven by how it's been pre-set up in the standard base as far as how deep the shelves come out. But you could, for example, click this shelf, and let's say we'll put actually we'll put +5. And what that should do is it should grow that shelf 5 inches bigger towards the front. So that's kind of how that works. Also in the section interior, you could do something like a vertical split. Let me take the doors off here so that way we can see them. Hit delete. You know, and you could add, for whatever reason, you can start adding partitions, and then when we go in, you click that partition, and you can tell it it's a divider. It's a partition, double partition. It's going to make it too thick, or a divider. And then you've got some adjustments you can make there. Split bottom, which we don't have anything set up for there, so we'll say no, and then split back. So we're not going to worry about that right now. And then if we back out, you can see we didn't add doors. Let's just go back in here. Let's just make it look like a normal cabinet. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go back to this. We're going to change that back to 1.5. And then we'll put a pair of doors back on it, so that way it looks like what we started. Alright, I know this video is getting a little long, so I'm just going to kind of just hit a couple more points, and then we'll probably call it on this video. But you can see if I right click the cabinet with my mouse, I have access to a property wheel. This, we can copy the cabinet. We've got properties where we can go in and we can rename the cabinet we want it to name it. So if we name it like Rob's Base, it should rename. We'll have to go in and turn everything on layers. So I'll show you how to do that here in a second, so we can get some stuff displayed up here. But going back to this property wheels, we've got finished ends. And so if you see here, this cabinet has an F and an F. And so this is signifying that it's a finished end as opposed to an unfinished end. And so this is where you can go in and assign, say I want to get rid of the finished ends. I can assign, I can take them, or I can remove them, or I can say, hey, this one's just on the left side. Alright, we've got detached toe kick, so this will split the toe kick. We can split the selected cabinet. We can combine cabinets. We can edit the part shapes, which we're not going to get into in this video. And then we can save this cabinet. Like if we build a custom cabinet, we can actually, and you say, hey, I don't want to build that again, I'm going to use it. We can actually save that to your base library, and you can name it whatever you want, Rob's Base. And we can, you can definitely do that. One thing we can do is if we, we're going to go back to normal mode. We're going to go to the elevation. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click out here. I think this is where, or maybe we have to go to plan view. Okay, yeah, okay, so we're going to left click over here, and then we're going to right click, and we want to go into properties, and we want to go into, no, we're not in the right. I think we might have to be in the elevation. I apologize, yes. Okay, so we're going to go to properties. Well, that's not what I want either. We want to edit properties. Properties. Okay, I had it right. I was just doing it wrong. Okay, so we want to right click off of the cabinets, and we want to go to properties, and we want to go to layers. Alright, so this is our layers panel, and so what we can see is you've got some light bulbs over here. Some are turned on and some are turned off, and if they're turned off, well, you're not going to see them. So what we're going to do is we're going to click, I'm actually going to go back to my elevation view because we don't see any names or numbers, and we kind of want to fix that. So let's go to layers and let's start seeing what we can turn on and turn off. So if we go to dimensions, let's double click that. We've got our layout, assembly part, horizontal offset, appliance. Let's hit OK. So let's, and that's already turned on. So let's go to primary operations. Okay, let's try shop annotations. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. So we turned on shop annotations, so now we can start seeing our width. We can see the shelves that are in there. So let's go back to our layer. Let's go into shop annotations, see what we got. We got our hinges, frameless door, frame overlay, case openings, dimensions, width, font. This is where you can go and you can make them bigger or smaller. Let's say we go to, I don't know if that did anything. Let's go back into our layers. What all primary operations? I feel like see what I'm looking for is the, and you think I would know this already, I'd have it pre-figured out, so I apologize. Okay, here we go. Annotations, that's what I was looking for. Okay, show object names, show object numbers. We can decide, do we want number over name or left and right? I don't know if it matters. We'll just pick one. Okay, so now we've got the names, we've got the numbers, and we've got the names. So just remember that, and it's, I think whatever view you're in, whatever, like if I turn on stuff on the elevation, it's going to turn it off of the elevation. So if I want to go to plan view and turn stuff on, I've got to be in the plan view. I believe that's how it works. And show object names. Let's say we don't necessarily need names, but let's say we do want the numbers. So we hit OK, and so now we can see the numbers here. So we've got our names and our numbers there. So that's always helpful. So just know that the layers is where you're going to be able to go in and you can experiment and see what all their the different options you have. But all right, so I'm just going to touch briefly on the CAD function. So CAD, computer assisted design. So think of this as going to be your you got some tools to draw with. So I'm not going to hit on all of these right now. We'll just do the simple ones. So like AB text. I could click that and I could say kitchen, and I can click it and maybe we'll say I want to make it just a little bigger, and so whenever I am in this view I will see kitchen, and if I show somebody they can look at it and say, oh, that's the kitchen or that's the bathroom. You can add dimension lines, you can add circles, you know, you can kind of draw and do whatever, and that'll all be done in the CAD, this CAD selector, and then when you back out it should stay. So trying to think, you know, what all I missed. I want to keep the first video kind of basic. I know this is dragging on probably way too long, so hopefully this is, some of you guys found this useful, and in my next video we're going to start kind of diving a little bit deeper into it and start taking a look at how we set up our own schedules and stuff, and kind of making Cabinet Vision our own. So if you guys watched it this far, I appreciate it greatly, and I will see you in the next video.